Today's session is a demonstration of NVivo 11 for Windows. I'll give a high-level overview of the capabilities of NVivo 11 Starter, Pro, and Plus with a specific focus on using NVivo to do literature reviews. It's a challenge to keep track of all of your articles, key findings, and influential authors when conducting a literature review. NVivo can import PDFs and bibliographic information from reference management software, efficiently organize and tag literature, easily keep track of critical quotes, and track ideas across many articles. There are 3 editions of NVivo 11 for Windows: Starter, Pro, and Plus. Bring libraries from EndNote, RefWorks, Zotero, and Mendeley into NVivo 11. All 3 editions can help you organize your PDFs and other text documents. In NVivo 11 Pro and Plus, you can manage bibliographic information across articles in a single convenient location. NVivo Pro and Plus can handle many data types. When working with literature, you can import PDFs as well as import libraries, including attached PDFs from reference management software, namely RefWorks, Mendeley, Zotero, and EndNote. Once you have your literature in NVivo, you can use NVivo to quickly identify key terms across multiple articles. This word cloud is live to the data in NVivo, so you can easily explore how these terms are being used. Word trees help you identify prominent words and phrases. These are produced using text search queries, which are a sophisticated find of those words and phrases. The framework matrix is a method that facilitates the summary of key themes across articles or authors. Easily compare multiple themes across a body of literature, as well as add your own notes. Hierarchy charts help you visualize patterns in your coding or attribute values. This is a type of hierarchy chart called a tree map, and it's visualizing coding for one article in my literature review. I can easily see which topics are more prominent in different articles using a hierarchy chart. This is another type of hierarchy chart called a sunburst, which is visualizing bibliographic trends across my literature. Here I can see the year published breakdown across my literature library. The outer ring represents the number of articles from each year. In NVivo, this is a dynamic visualization, and I can zoom in to see the authors of these articles. For example, these are all of the articles published in 2005. Explore diagrams are a dynamic visualization that helps you explore connections between your project items. For instance, in this Explore diagram, I can see all of the articles that have coding for a given topic. Today I'm going to introduce you to some of the tools in NVivo that are useful when conducting a literature review. I'll start by showing how to bring in libraries from reference management software. Today we'll be working with Zotero. Then I'll cover some tools within NVivo, specifically the word frequency and text search queries that can help you quickly understand key concepts in your literature. Nodes, which are buckets for qualitative data, pull together information from multiple sources of literature. This makes it easy to see how an idea or concept has manifested across articles or authors. We'll also cover auto-coding by theme, which is a feature that's only available in NVivo Plus, but can quickly read across your articles for prevalent themes and code to nodes. Then we'll work with a framework matrix and take a look at some tools to visualize trends in your literature, namely the hierarchy chart and Explore diagram. Next, we'll move into NVivo. All NVivo projects follow the same basic process. The first step in any NVivo project is to gather data. Then you create an NVivo project and import those materials. From there, you can analyze and explore your data through sophisticated coding and query functions, and create a beautiful visualization that helps you learn more about your data and communicate your findings to others. So now we're going to move out of PowerPoint and into a blank NVivo project. If at any point you'd like clarification on which features are available in Starter or Pro or Plus, please ask that question using the question function in GoToWebinar. Today we're going to be working with some literature on environmental education. To bring a library into NVivo from Zotero, or any reference management software, you'll first need to export it. Depending on which reference management software you prefer to use, the file format varies. So I'm using Zotero. So what I'll do is select everything that I want to export and export it as an RIS file. I'll put that on my desktop. For more information on which file format to use for your preferred reference management software, I've attached a handout to GoToWebinar that has a number of helpful links and resources. Specifically, there are links to our online help that have helpful details on this process and what file formats you need to export into for each of the different types of reference management software. So I've exported my library and now I need to bring it into NVivo. So today I'm working with some literature on environmental education. And when I import this literature from Zotero, NVivo gives me some options. I can choose to name my sources by title or author and year. I often work with APA, so I prefer to name by author and year. And then it tells me where it's going to put everything. So it'll take a few moments once I click import to bring everything in, and I'll cover what it means by putting internals and internals and externals and externals. So if there is a PDF attached to the citation in Zotero, then that PDF comes into NVivo as an internal. Internals are sources that you can import into NVivo. So all the different file types that are available to import into NVivo come in as an internal. If the citation didn't have anything attached to it, so perhaps you didn't have access to that article, then NVivo will create a proxy document called an external. So here let's start in internals. Here are all of the PDFs for which I had access in NVivo. For which I had access in Zotero, now in NVivo. And then when I open this up, you can see this looks just like it would look if I open it in any sort of PDF reader. And if the text is recognized, and in most recently created PDFs, the text is recognized, meaning you can highlight it just like I've done, or highlight it like you might in a Word document, then you can code this as a text document in NVivo. So if the reference didn't have a PDF attached, then NVivo creates a proxy document called an external. So for example, this 2005 article by Ellen Appleby, I don't have access to it, so it's created a blank external. And I can choose to type in here, just like any Word document. So for instance, if I gain access to it, but it's in a book and I don't want to copy it, or if it is a full hardcover book, for instance, and you can't import a hardcover book unless you want to copy the whole thing, bring it into NVivo, you can treat this just like a pen and paper or Word document where you can type up quotes or other information you might have about that article. If there was additional information in Zotero, like abstract and keywords or any notes you might have made on that reference, NVivo brings that in as well. And that comes in as a linked memo. So you'll see all of these little yellow icons. I have a number in the internals as well. And I can tell NVivo, all right, show me that linked memo. So that's all stored down here in memos. And here you can see the linked memo for that Appleby article that brings in the abstract, which is helpful because I can see if this is something I want to go track down. The keywords and any notes that I might have made, for instance, need access. Again, just like the external, I can click to edit and type in more information here. Now that I have my literature in NVivo, I want to get a high-level view of what some potential trends are. A word frequency query helps me to identify possible themes in my data by calculating frequently used words across my literature. So here it showed me the most frequently used words in all of my literature. It's ignoring filler words like it and is and that because it has a stop words list. If I see any words in this list that I want to get rid of, that I think are filler words or not particularly helpful, here's one, I can add it to the stop words list. When I rerun my query, that word is now excluded. Another useful tool in a word frequency query is the ability to automatically group words together. So right now it's counting exact matches. So it's counting learning as a different word than learned or learned. Same with education, so counting it as a different word than educational. So I can tell NVivo to group stemmed words together, which will give me a different view of my data. So now you'll see that the word order has changed slightly with different words pulled up to the top of my list. In my reference view here, my summary view, I can see the list of the words that have been grouped together. If I click down to the word cloud, and I can actually just quickly undock this, get a little bit more space. Let's take a look at this word cloud. So NVivo creates a word cloud which visualizes the results of the word frequency query. Should be relatively familiar. The larger the word, the more frequently it appears. I've got some control over how the word cloud looks. So if I want to change color or font, I can do that. I can export it as a static image and use it in a presentation or a report. But within NVivo, it's live to the data. So I can explore the use of a word by running a text search query from within a word frequency query or on its own. So let's say I want to learn more about what people are saying about learning in my interviews. What types of learning or learning theories are present in my data? So NVivo is going to automatically search for learning in any one of its stems. Right now it's looking in both the memos and in all of my sources, my memos, my PDFs, and any externals I might have. If I want it to just look at my PDFs, I can tell it to just look in internals and rerun my queries so I don't have any duplicates. So the text search query helps me to explore the use, context, and meaning of words and help me begin to see if an idea or concept is prevalent across my data. So it opened to the summary view, which gave me a list of all the articles in which any one of the word learn or its stems appears. In the reference view, I can see the word learning or its stems with a little bit of context. NVivo will also generate a word tree. And this might be another one that we want to get a bigger view on. Let's do that. So what the word tree is doing is taking the context around the word learning and grouping it onto branches. In this way, I can easily identify trends and potential themes in my data. So if this will load for me, there we go. So I can see what people are saying about learning grouped onto branches. So it helps me really pick out what people are saying, writing frequently about learning. I can see that there are numerous mentions to different kinds of learning. Incidental learning, learning experiences. So the text on the right appears after the word learning in my literature, and the text on the left appears before the word learning. You can see learning environments is mentioned, free choice learning is discussed, and I can quickly, without having to read through all of my literature, start to get a sense of what's frequently mentioned, right? What are people really writing about? So here's a whole big branch about problem-based learning. So let's say I want to see what people are saying about problem-based learning. So I can run a text search query for that particular phrase, problem-based learning. I can modify this query. So let's say I see that, or I happen to know, or I can see quickly reading here that there's a common acronym. So I want to account for that acronym as well. Or perhaps it's not always spelled with a hyphen. So let's rerun that query. So here I can see all instances of problem-based learning across all of my articles. And quickly, because of the sheer number of references, I can see here that the Quan and So article is primarily about problem-based learning, or discusses problem-based learning much more than these other two articles. Here in the reference view, it gives me, again, problem-based learning with a little bit of context. And then it generates a new word tree for me. I can easily gather together all mentions of problem-based learning across articles into a node. And as a reminder, a node is a bucket into which you put qualitative data. And nodes gather related material to one place so you can look for emerging patterns or ideas. You can create and code to nodes manually, which I'll show you in just a moment, or automatically through a query, such as a text search query, or auto-coding by theme, which we'll cover a little bit later on. First, I want to grab a little more context. I want to know not just how many times problem-based learning is mentioned, but what people are saying about problem-based learning, what's being discussed, perhaps what they did with problem-based learning in these articles. So I want to grab a little bit more context in my query. So with narrow context, it's going to grab 5 words on either side. And then, or I could spread it even further. Actually, if I wanted to do broad context, that would be the whole paragraph. So then I can save the results of my query as a new node and call it problem-based learning. Because I am creating this query, or this node, as a result of a query, it's going to put it in this results folder. And I just need to move it up into my main nodes folder to work with it further. So here's my problem-based query node. Let's just copy and paste that up to my main nodes folder. So here I have my node. When I see it, when I open it, I can see all mentions of problem-based learning with some context around it as well. And you'll notice that the number of references went down because now it's counting the not just the number of times problem-based learning, but the number of coding references or blocks of text. So you can see here that problem-based learning is mentioned multiple times in a given paragraph. Okay. Here in the summary view, again, I can see all of the articles that mention problem-based learning. In the reference view, I can see the text itself. So the text search query is one great way to jumpstart coding for key concepts. You can also manually code the articles as you read them. So I could potentially create a new node called gaps in the literature. Anytime a gap is mentioned in an article, I could code that there. Say I'm also interested in keeping track of findings of these different studies. I can create a node and code that data there. So let's explore what we're seeing about problem-based learning. So this first mention of problem-based learning, this first coding reference, is actually a citation for another article about problem-based learning. So if this was a topic I wanted to explore further, I might actually want to go pursue this article and so that I can help expand my literature search or confirm that I've got everything I want to look into. The second article is that Quan and So article that's focused on problem-based learning. So let's take a look at that article to see what it says. Let's zoom out a little bit. Skip to the middle of the article. Let's go back to the top. So because I've accessed the article from within a node, it's highlighted all the text that's coded to the node. Another tool I like to have on when I'm coding is something called a coding stripe. So the highlighting shows you coding for one node, and the coding stripe shows you coding for many nodes. So you can see I've got highlighting for problem-based learning, and I've got this coding stripe over here as well. If I don't think that some of this text should be coded to the node, for instance, let's say I don't want to bother coding the abstract, I can select this data and uncode it from the problem-based learning node. Now you'll see that the highlighting is gone and the coding stripe has disappeared as well. And when I return to the node, you'll see that the coding for the abstract has been removed as well. I can code for additional topics in my article as well, perhaps other types of learning or benefits and drawbacks of this particular approach. So let's say I'm reading through this article and I notice that this text appears to be about the benefits of problem-based learning. I can code this to a new node called benefits. It's also coded to problem-based learning. So you'll see that I now have additional coding stripe here called benefits, and that overlaps with my problem-based learning node. And down the line, if I wanted to bring up all the places where people mention the benefits of problem-based learning or benefits of a different learning theory, I can tell NVivo, show me all the places where there's coding to benefits and problem-based learning, and it will bring up the matching text for me. Another tool that is useful and only available in NVivo Plus is auto-coding by theme. So auto-coding by theme can help you start to figure out what trends or patterns are in your literature by analyzing frequently used noun phrases. So what NVivo is doing now is reading through my literature and seeing what people are frequently writing about, and then grouping those into themes. So it's identifying common noun phrases, and then it will code those to a node and organize those nodes into a hierarchy. So it's going to take just a few moments as it's reading through. So this can be a particularly useful tool as a jumping off point. If you want to quickly see what some trends are in your literature, you can, of course, always reorganize these nodes, add data to them, delete nodes. But if you have access to NVivo Plus, then this is a great feature when you're working with a lot of text-based data. So here you can see that the most frequently appearing theme in my data is related to learning, and it's captured all of the noun phrases related to learning. So learning outcomes, meaningful learning, learning activities, and so on. And these are organized by the number of mentions. Another frequently appearing noun phrase is related to program. So the difference between this and a word frequency query is this actually does the coding for you. I can choose to code broadly or narrowly. And let's go ahead and code it to, or put it in its own folder called auto-coded themes. Okay. So on the right, a visualization will come up, but we'll come back to that. First, I want to show you, here's the auto-coding by theme itself. So I'm going to make this much smaller over here. So under nodes is a new folder called auto-coding by theme, and it's organized your data in here. And if I were to open up any one of these nodes, for instance, ecological, I can see all mentions of ecological concepts across all of my data. So this can be a really useful way to start to organize your literature. When you run auto-coding by theme, NVivo generates what's called a hierarchy chart. So a hierarchy chart gives you a high-level overview of your coding. So you can generate a hierarchy chart in NVivo Pro and Plus. This one is generated as a result of the auto-coding by theme, which is only available in Plus. And in hierarchy charts is a tool to help you visualize coding patterns or attribute values. So this is the auto-coding or the coding for all of the concepts across all of my literature. The larger the box, the more coding references for that concept, so the more frequently that concept was mentioned when you're working with auto-coding by theme. When I first opened this, there were many smaller boxes nested within the larger ones, and those represent child nodes. So I can change the view level to just view the upper. There we go, the parent node. I can also zoom in. I can click on one of these boxes and zoom in to see all these child nodes. And these are live to the data, so if I want to view the actual text, I can do that. I can return to all of my nodes here. There we go. I can change the chart as well to just view one article, so I can see how these different articles might talk about different concepts. So in this way, you might compare coding for several articles. So let's say I'm only interested in what this article talked about. And I can see that this article does discuss different things. So urban and development are much larger boxes than they were before. You can, of course, choose to export the hierarchy chart as well as a static image. I can also choose to visualize attribute values or bibliographic information. So I can quickly see, for instance, which articles were published in what year. So let's take a look at my bibliographic information that was brought in from Zotero. And let's see, I want to see the breakdown of when articles were published and who published when. When I click Finish, it will create another hierarchy chart. Again, this opens as a tree map. When looking at things like attribute values, I particularly like the sunburst visualization. So like the tree map, this is dynamic. So the inner circle is showing me the year in which the article was published, and the outer circle represents the authors or the number of articles. So if I wanted to see who had published in 2005, I can click on that wedge of the pie and it will zoom in. I can choose to export this as well. Another way to look across articles at themes is a framework matrix. It's similar to a matrix coding query, but designed specifically to facilitate cross-case analysis and produces text summaries rather than counts of coding references. My first step is to create my articles as cases. So let's return to these articles. And really the only reason I'm doing this is because the framework matrix only works with cases. So I've created each article as a case node. So here you can see that each article has its own case now. Now I can go ahead and create my framework matrix. So we're just going to create this called sample, and now I need to select my cases. So this is the reason why I needed to create cases. And then I can select some themes that I might find interesting. So this is, I think, a lot more useful once you've done quite a bit of coding. So I'm going to select some of my auto-coded by theme nodes and click OK. So once NVivo brings up my framework matrix, you'll actually see that it's empty. So I'll have some text off to the right, or I did, so when I click in here. But NVivo will actually auto-summarize the text for me. So it will fill in those blanks with the text that's coded to those nodes from those articles. So here I can see all discussion of ecological concepts in the Barnett article and environmental concepts in the Barnett article. This article does not discuss fishing, but it does discuss geography. I can also type my own notes. Perhaps I want to note the fact that it's interesting there's no discussion of fishing, or perhaps it's not. And I might want to change the color of this to indicate that it's my own note rather than the auto-summarized text. I can also take my framework matrix outside of NVivo and work with it as an Excel spreadsheet. The last thing I want to show you today is the Explore diagram, which will help you visualize connections between articles. So using an Explore diagram, I can see all of the nodes to which a given article is coded. So I'm going to go ahead and return to my articles. Let's play with that Stern article again. And I want to see what topics are coded, does the Stern article have coding for. So it's shown me all of the nodes for which there is coding. So again, these are all generated from auto-coding by theme. And so there's a lot of concepts here. This is a very rich article. You can also generate an Explore diagram from your manual coding as well. If I want to see what other articles might discuss the same concept or have coding for that node, I can change the focus. So what other articles discuss urban topics? So here I can see, okay, I've got both cases and PDFs. Because I had to create cases for the framework matrix, I've got some duplicates here. That's fine, I can turn that off. And these are all the articles that discuss an urban context to their environmental education program. Just like all other visualizations, this is exportable. It's a static image, and it's designed to help you step forwards and backwards through your data, changing the focus, whether it's a particular article or a subject. So I'm going to do a quick question check. So if you have a question, please do send it over. So a couple of things. One question was about if the text is not recognized, and I believe at least one of these doesn't have the text recognized. I think it's this one. Yes, so if the text is not recognized, you can still code it. However, then you will not be able to use things like the text search query, the word frequency query, and the auto-coding by theme. The way you would then code that is by region. So you would tell NVivo, code this area of text to a node. And when I turn on coding stripes, you'll see that now I have coding for that particular concept associated with that selection of the PDF. By the way, if you have a question specific to your project, we're happy to answer those, but we would like to do that offline. So we're going to ask you to send us an email with your question, and I will provide contact information at the end of today's session. So a coding stripe, by the way, is designed to show you the different concepts that you have coded for. It's like a visual check mark of what you've coded your article to. So when I'm coding, I like to have nodes recently coding turned on so I can see, yep, I coded that to benefits, I coded this to problem-based learning, I coded this to findings. So let me clarify what visualization options are available in Pro versus Plus. The ability to create a hierarchy chart from manual coding is available in NVivo Pro and NVivo Plus. So you could generate it from any set of nodes. The hierarchy chart is also generated as a result of autocoding by theme. Autocoding by theme is only available in Plus. The Explore diagram is available in both Pro and Plus. I believe it is also available in Starter too. You can absolutely import literature from EndNote. And if you would like to review this webinar again in the future, please check out our YouTube channel. You should receive a link. Sometimes those don't go through, but we do have, I believe, a previous recording for this webinar available online at YouTube on our QSR International YouTube channel. So if you check that out and look for the Meet NVivo playlist, all of the webinars as we do them, as we record them, will be uploaded to Meet NVivo. Unless there's some sort of issue with the recording, please feel free to reach out to us at any point in time should you want access to a recording or have any issues accessing them. The last question I've gotten is, how is the framework matrix different from the other matrix? So I mentioned another type of matrix within NVivo that's called a matrix coding query. So the matrix coding query allows you to cross-tabulate your data and will produce counts. So whereas the framework matrix is specifically designed for cross-case analysis, matrix coding could be looking at how nodes by nodes and attributes by nodes and cases by other theme nodes, whereas the framework matrix is designed to look specifically only across cases at themes. Sounds like if you're bringing in, so I'm reading a specific question about coding tables in Word documents. I think probably your best bet is to take that question offline, as well as the question about the mind map. In fact, if you're interested in a mind map, I encourage you to join our overview webinar, which is being given tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, which they do discuss mind maps, and we also have recordings of those webinars available as well. But the question about coding tables in Word documents is a little tricky. If you are working with a PDF, however, your best bet, even if the text is recognized, is to code by region if you've got a table in there. Okay, so let me move back into PowerPoint and wrap up. So as I'm wrapping up this afternoon, I want to provide you with some information about licensing options, but also about ways to get more information or additional help about how to use NVivo. We offer discounted student licenses for NVivo Starter and Pro. These are full functionality, but limited to 12 months. You can also choose to purchase a full license, which is a perpetual one-time license for individuals. You can also choose to purchase an optional subscription, which entitles you to priority support and any new versions that are released during the term of your subscription. If there's a group that's interested in using NVivo, you might consider, or a group that's interested in working as a team in NVivo, you might consider the NVivo for Teams server add-on, which allows groups to work simultaneously in the same project. You can work collaboratively in NVivo without NVivo for Teams, but the add-on ensures streamlined, secure collaboration. And if there's a group of you at your organization that's interested in using NVivo, you might consider an enterprise license agreement. There are a number of benefits to being an ELA holder with us, including free access to new versions and priority support. If you'd like to try NVivo before you buy, please check out our free 14-day trial, which is available from the website, qsrinternational.com. We want to make sure you're successful with your NVivo project, and so to that end, we offer some paid training and free resources. On the paid training side, We offer on-site classroom workshops that are typically 2 days long. Check out our event calendar to see if we're coming to a city near you. And if you have a group that's interested in learning NVivo, let us know and we're happy to set up a training. We also offer online courses at a beginner and more advanced level. These are self-paced and students receive a discount. And if you'd like to sit down with us to discuss your project, we're happy to set up an individual consulting session. Just a note on those are also available for groups. So if you want to set up a web-based customized training, we can do that for you as well. On the free resources side, again, that handout attached to GoToWebinar includes links to everything that I'm about to mention. The YouTube channel, the QSR International YouTube channel, has a lot of recent recordings of webinars, how-to videos, and again, this recording of this webinar will be made available on YouTube as well. Another great resource are user communities. We have a Facebook page, LinkedIn group, user forums, and an active Twitter community. These are great places to interact with other NVivo users and get answers from one of our experts. There are many links to our online help documents on that handout, which is a great place to get detailed information for how to do anything in NVivo, and keep an eye out on our event calendar for additional free webinars. Our Meet NVivo series is a great way to get acquainted with useful features in NVivo. So if you have a question specific to your project or something we didn't get to today, please reach out to us at americas@qsrinternational.com. And I like to post our Twitter handles, main Twitter handles at QSRInt. Our support team is available through the website qsrinternational.com, as well as their Twitter handles at QSRSup. And I'm at NWymanRoth. I like to answer questions and support our NVivo community any way that I can. All right, thank you for joining me this afternoon, and best of luck with your NVivo projects.